Okay, so migrating legacy software. It can feel kind of monstrous, right? Like a total rewrite is the only way. But what if there's a less scary path? That's what we're digging into today. We've got excerpts from Translation Mythbusters. It's by Great Migrations. They're all about software modernization. And they've got some cool ideas about converting legacy code, especially VB6, ASP, COM, that kind of stuff, to .NET. And the key here is something they call tool-assisted rewrite methodology, TRM for short.
You know, it's interesting. Great Migrations, they kind of challenge that whole rewrite versus convert thing we all get stuck on. They're saying we should be asking, like, why are we even upgrading in the first place? And how can we get to those goals, you know?
So it's not just ditching the old stuff for the sake of it. It's about like improving the software strategically and picking a platform that's going to last.
Yeah.
That's a good point about the bigger picture.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where this TRM thing comes in. So
Yeah.
TRM, right? Tool-assisted rewrite methodology. It uses special tools to help convert your old code. It's not like wiping everything out and starting over. It's more about analyzing what you already have, re-implementing some parts, and actually using that existing code base, like as a starting point.
I like that. It's like renovating a house, you know, not bulldozing it and starting from scratch. You keep the good foundation, but you upgrade everything. But I bet some people are like, wait, tools for something this important. Our code base is, you know, unique, right? It's complex, maybe a little messy. Can a tool really handle all that?
That's a really common thought, and it goes right to the first myth Great Migrations tackles. The idea that your code is so special, so complicated, that only a human can rewrite it.
Yeah. Like only a human understands the blood, sweat, and tears in this code.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Their tool, it's not just a one-size-fits-all thing. It can actually mix translated code with handwritten stuff. So your team can write some parts. That means it's customized. You get the efficiency of the tool. Plus, your developers' know-how. It's not replacing anyone. It's about giving your team more power.
That's a good point. What about for you in your work? Is there anything you think a tool just couldn't handle, like that part of the code where you'd say, nope, needs a human? That's a question we're thinking about, right, for anyone who's dealt with these legacy systems.
It is, yeah. And it brings up something important. Even with the best tools, human expertise is still key. But, you know, another fear people have is that the translated code, it'll just be garbage. That whole garbage in, garbage out thing, you know.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No one wants a Frankenstein code base. That's even harder to deal with than the original.
Right. Well, the good news is, Great Migrations, they designed their tool to be iterative. So you can look at the translated code, see if there are any weak spots or parts that need tweaking, and then you can adjust the tool's settings so you get better results. It's not like one and done. You can keep refining and improving the output until it meets your standards.
So it's more of a back and forth
Yeah.
between the tool and the dev team.
Exactly. It's working with the tool, guiding it, you know,
Yeah.
and using what it can do to get the best outcome. And even if the translated code isn't like absolutely perfect, which, let's face it, that's rare in software anyway, even then the tool will probably get you further along than if you were rewriting everything by hand. And that brings us to another myth they talk about, that legacy code is just worthless, just because it's old.
It's easy to just dismiss it, you know? Like, oh, that old thing, forget about it. It's from the dinosaur age.
I know, right? But Great Migrations reminds us that legacy code, it usually has years of business logic baked in. All those little details that make your software work, the core logic of your app, the heart of it. It might still be good even if the tech underneath is outdated. Think of it like a classic recipe, right? The main ingredients, the steps, they're still good. Whether you're cooking on a wood stove or like a fancy induction cooktop, you get the same result just with different tools.
Okay, yeah, I see that. That makes sense. But even if the core logic is solid, sometimes the details just feel so old. We're talking about moving to a totally new platform, maybe with different, you know, architectures and frameworks. Can the legacy code really have enough detail for that, for a whole new system?
I get it. But Great Migrations, they made a good point. They say, even if you did a total rewrite by hand, you'd still need to figure out those missing pieces. You'd have to figure out how to map, like, the old components to the new ones. So, for example, you have something called a COM API. It's how software parts talk to each other in the old system. How do you turn that into something that works in the .NET world? You're basically giving instructions, like a translation guide, no matter what you do.
So you're not starting from nothing. You're using the old code as like a reference. You're giving the tool a roadmap, kinda, to go from old to new.
Yeah, exactly. And the tool can use that input to automate a lot of the process. Great Migrations, they even give an example in their paper about replacing specific legacy things, showing how this mapping actually works. So the cool way to think about it, you're not throwing out the old stuff, you're building on it. But then, of course, there's that big fear that it can't be done, you know?
I know that feeling. It's the fear of the unknown, right? Our system is too unique, too messy. This whole translation thing, it's too good to be true.
That's where Great Migration says, be specific. What's it exactly?
Yeah.
What part feels impossible? They even point out, like, compilers, the things that translate our code
Yeah.
into stuff computers understand. Those are translators too. And they've gotten so good over time, their own tool, it's been refined for like 40 years. And it uses a semantic approach, meaning it's not just swapping out lines of code blindly. It's looking at the meaning, the intention behind the code, so it can restructure it the right way for the new platform.
So it's not just replacing A with B, it's understanding the logic and translating that.
Right, exactly. And they talk about how the tool can handle these huge interconnected code bases, which is usually a big problem in these projects. And their method, it's not like a rigid waterfall thing either. It's more agile, mixing automation with like human checks and iterations. It's a balance.
This makes me think about how people get overwhelmed by just figuring out how to restructure everything. It's like staring at this giant jigsaw puzzle with no picture on the box. Where do you even start?
I know, it's daunting, but great migrations, they say. Figuring out how to make the old code work on a new system. It's actually part of good design. You're not just moving code, you're thinking. How should this work in this new environment? And using a tool for the basic translation stuff. It lets your team focus on the bigger design thinking.
It's like having a blueprint instead of just a rough sketch. You still got to make choices, but you've got a better starting point.
Exactly. And think about the other option, right? Ignoring your old code and building a brand new app that's way more expensive and riskier. You're basically reinventing the wheel. And you're probably going to miss stuff or add new bugs. Great migrations they call legacy code. Like an extremely detailed production-tested specification, they're emphasizing that it has value,
I like that. When we started this deep dive, I had those same worries about migration, to be honest. But hearing about TRM, this whole team effort between tools and people, it's changing my mind, I gotta say. It doesn't have to be this all or nothing scary thing.
Right. It's about finding that balance. The tool does the heavy lifting, the conversion. And your team, they provide the strategy and the human insight. But even beyond just the technical stuff, Great Migrations makes a good point about modernization itself, like the benefits of it.
Let's talk about that. It's easy to get lost in the technical details and forget the bigger why behind all this.
Exactly. Modernizing your systems. It's not just about keeping up with the newest tech. It's about strategic advantage. How can it make your business more agile? How can you lower those long-term maintenance costs? How can you let your team focus on new stuff instead of just patching up the old system all the time?
It's like, oh, finally cleaning out that closet you've been avoiding. It's a lot of work up front, but then you have more space, more freedom. You can actually find what you need when you need it.
Exactly. Great Migrations argues that modernizing, it can unlock resources and potential that were tied up in maintaining those old systems. Instead of playing catch-up, you can suddenly invest in new products, new services, new ways to connect with your customers. You're not reacting anymore, you're leading.
It's like paying off a big debt. You're free to focus on the future, to be creative, to take risks. But I think some people worry that relying too much on a tool could make their code clunky or inefficient, like it's been put together by a robot instead of a skilled developer.
That's a good point, and it shows why that iterative process is so important, the one we talked about before. You're not just blindly accepting what the tool gives you. You're looking at it, refining it, making sure it meets your standards of readability, maintainability, performance.
So it's not just set it and forget it. It's about actively working with the tool.
Exactly. And remember, Great Migrations keep saying, the tool is meant to help humans, not replace them. Your team skills are still super important.
This reminds me of something you said earlier about figuring out how to restructure the code. That process itself is valuable. It's not just moving lines around. It's understanding the logic and maybe even improving the design.
That's a key takeaway. They argue that by doing this, by really working with the legacy code, developers can gain a deep understanding of what the business needs and how the software works. It's like reverse engineering your own history, but with the benefit of hindsight and modern tools.
Like taking apart an old clock to see how it works. You might not build it the same way today, but understanding the mechanisms, the craftsmanship, they can give you new ideas.
Great analogy. And this goes right into the agile method that Great Migrations likes. They emphasize iterating. You're constantly checking, adjusting, refining the code as you go.
So it's not about having a rigid plan and never changing it. It's about being flexible, dealing with challenges as they come up, and learning from each step.
Exactly. And the tool helps with this by automating the repetitive stuff so developers can focus on the creative, strategic parts. It's really about helping humans do what they do best.
It's like having a team of robots to do the boring work. And the humans get to be the architects, the designers. But let's be real sometimes, even with the best tools and the best team, there are going to be problems. What happens when you hit a snag? When some code just doesn't want to translate right?
That's when human expertise is absolutely crucial. The tool can't solve everything, and there will always be situations that need creative solutions and a deep understanding of the code.
So you need the right people
Yeah.
who can analyze the problem, understand the tool's limits, and come up with something new.
Definitely. And this is where experience with the old system is so valuable. Those developers who've been working with the code for years, they often have this intuition about it. They understand its quirks and complexities.
They know where all the skeletons are buried, so to speak.
Exactly. And they can anticipate problems and guide the migration through those tricky spots. This brings us to a point that Great Migrations makes about the cost-benefit of migration. They say trying to rewrite a huge legacy app from scratch, it's not just super time-consuming, it's super risky too.
It's like tearing down a house that works perfectly fine and trying to rebuild it just from memory. You might get something similar, but you'll probably miss important details or make new mistakes.
Right, and they point out, even if you have detailed documentation for the old system, which, let's be honest, is rare, there are always going to be little things that only come up when you're actually working with the code.
Like trying to recreate a complex recipe just from the ingredient list. You might get the basic flavors, but there's technique and little interactions that you only learn from experience.
And Great Migration says, by using the existing code base through this tool-assisted rewrite, you can avoid a lot of those risks. You're not starting from nothing. You're building on something solid, something that already works.
It's like having a head start in a race. You might not win for sure, but you're in a better position than someone starting way behind.
And they emphasize, this head start can save you a lot of money, both in terms of time and having to fix stuff later. By reusing as much of the old code as possible, you're writing less new code, which means less testing and less debugging.
This is making a lot of sense now. It's not about being stuck in the past. It's about seeing the value in the work that's already been done and finding the smartest way to bring it into the future.
That's it. And they make a really interesting point about legacy code and institutional knowledge. They argue that by just throwing away old systems, you're potentially losing valuable information about how the business has changed and how the software has adapted to those changes.
It's like throwing away a historical archive. You might not need every single document, but there are probably hidden gems in there, wisdom and experience that could be lost forever.
A tool-assisted rewrite can actually help preserve that knowledge by making the old code more accessible and understandable to modern developers.
So instead of treating it like a scary black box, you can use the migration as a chance to learn from the past.
And this brings us to something interesting they say about translation tools and different generations of developers. They say by automating the conversion of old code to newer languages and frameworks, you can make it easier for younger developers to understand and work with those older systems.
That's a good point. It's common to have teams where some people have been working with the old code forever, and others are brand new to it.
Absolutely. And Great Migration says, translation tools can help share knowledge by giving everyone a common ground, regardless of their background or experience. Think about it. The younger devs, they might be great with the latest languages, but have no idea about the old system's quirks. And the veterans, they might not want to learn a new language.
It's like a Rosetta Stone for the code base. Everyone can speak the same language.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And they emphasize that this collaboration, it's essential for any migration project to succeed. It's not just about the tech, it's about the people and making sure everyone understands each other.
This is really changing how I think about legacy migration. It's not just updating the code, it's updating how we think about the code and the people who wrote it.
And they talk about the importance of empathy, understanding the limitations and challenges that the original developers faced so we can appreciate their decisions and make better choices about how to modernize.
It's like going back in time and trying to see the world through their eyes. What tools did they have? What were the priorities back then? What compromises did they have to make? We can be quick to judge old code, but they were doing their best with what they had, right?
Exactly. It's like looking at those old photos and, even if their clothes and hairstyles look a little funny to us now, They were just as real and complex as we are today.
Yeah, totally.
And by understanding their context, we can make smarter choices about how to, preserve and build on their legacy. And Great Migrations talks about how a tool-assisted rewrite can actually help us address something called technical debt in a more, I guess, thoughtful way.
Technical debt.
Yeah, it's kind of like all those shortcuts and compromises that kind of pile up in a code base over time. Things that maybe made sense back then, but now they just cause headaches.
Right, so instead of just patching over those problems, we can actually use the migration to, like, reinforce the whole system.
And they emphasize that it's an ongoing thing. It's not about getting everything perfect in one go, but it's about continuously making the code base better over time.
I like that. It's like tending a garden, right? You got to weed and prune and fertilize to keep those plants healthy. You can't just plant them and walk away.
That's a great analogy. And Great Migration suggests that by having this mindset of always improving, we can actually turn legacy migration from this scary thing into a chance for innovation and growth.
I love that. Instead of being afraid of the old code, we can see it as something with potential.
Exactly. And throughout their paper, they keep coming back to this idea that modernizing legacy systems, it shouldn't be seen as a burden, but as a strategic advantage.
It's a whole new way of looking at it.
Right. Instead of dreading that old code base, we could be seeing it as an asset, something valuable that's just waiting to be unlocked. And they argue that by using these legacy assets, companies can free up resources to focus on innovation and things that make them stand out. They can invest in developing new products and services that give them an edge. Modernization isn't just about keeping up with the latest technology trends. It's about staying ahead of the curve. So by embracing new tools and methodologies, companies can be more flexible, responsive, and ultimately more successful.
So it's not just about fixing what's broken. It's about building something stronger, more adaptable, and more ready for the future.
And they suggest that a tool-assisted rewrite can be a key part of this change. By automating the more tedious parts of migration, it lets companies focus on the strategic and creative side of things. Think about all those stories of companies getting bogged down in their legacy systems, unable to innovate because they're just trying to keep things running.
It's a common problem for sure. And it's not just about technology, it's about mindset. Great Migrations is really challenging us to think differently.
Absolutely. A tool-assisted rewrite can help break that cycle of just reacting. It makes migration more efficient and manageable, giving companies the confidence to move forward.
It's like breaking free from the past and starting a new adventure with the tools and knowledge to succeed.
That's a great way to put it. And I think it captures what Great Migration is trying to say. It's not just about debunking myths about legacy migration. It's about inspiring companies to see the possibilities beyond the code.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. I feel like my whole view of legacy systems has changed. Instead of seeing them as a burden, I'm starting to see them as an opportunity. And I bet our listener is feeling that too.
Yeah, and that's the amazing thing about knowledge, right? It can change how we see the world and the possibilities in front of us.
Absolutely. So to our listener out there, what small part of your code base could you try using a translation tool on? What potential is hiding in your legacy systems just waiting to be discovered?
It's definitely something to think about.
It is. And as always, we encourage you to learn more. Explore the Great Migration's website. Check out their resources. Until next time, keep diving deep.